Hi, welcome to Taste This TV. I'm Chef Joe Ciminera. Hey, we got a great show for you here today. You know, talking about Mediterranean cuisine, right? What two recipes pop up? Well, maybe three that are my favorite. Now, if you talk about Chef Joe, who is from Italian descent, but I have Greek friends all over the planet, and they know how to cook. All right, and most of them are chefs. So I know what a good Spanikopita is supposed to taste like, a good baklava, and kataifi as well, dessert with the custard on top, to die for. So one of my favorite cuisines is Mediterranean cuisine, and with Mediterranean cuisine you have to know a good phyllo dough, right? That's like saying to yourself, you're Italian and you're going to be introduced to a great pasta. So you have to have a standard, right? The standard boilerplate sort of foundation is the phyllo dough, and then you can do anything you want with this, folks. You could stuff this with like a meat pie. You can do Spanikopita, which is the spinach. You could do baklava, which is the dessert. You could really get creative and get versatile when using these types of products. But you need a good foundation first. And just like my example I gave with you earlier with the pasta, I mean, you could make a million different pasta recipes, right? But it has to start with that first main ingredient. And there are many products on the market. I just don't think they stand up as well as this product does. So what I'm looking for is a really good, crisp, excellent flavor, durability. At some point, you know, even though phyllo dough is very delicate to work with, I just, hands down, I've always found that this product has come through for me. So today we're going to be talking about Spanikopita. Spanikopita I first tried with a very good friend, chef of mine, Maria Loy. In my opinion, she makes definitely one of the best Spanikopitas in the world. I mean, the product, hands down, was just incredible. But I'm a big spinach fan, and I love feta, so these two really go hand in hand. There's a couple of ingredients that I put into my Spanikopita that I think takes it to the next level. The main ingredient is spinach, but you can't forget that a nice dill and parsley flavor also just brings it to a very nice garden aroma flavor. And I think that if you try this recipe, I don't think you're going to go back to any other Spanikopita that you make. And if you don't feel daring and you want to try this recipe as Spanikopita, then there's always products on the market that are great that you can buy already made, and Athens actually does make products already made. So take a look at their website and you'll be able to kind of thumb through some things that maybe you don't have the time to make, or you don't have the patience, or you just want to watch the show for entertainment, and that's fine too. So now let's talk about some of the ingredients that you're going to see in today's show. Big fan of organic ingredients. All the ingredients that you're going to see in front of me today are organic. We're talking about scallions. I don't use onions. I've seen onions being put in here. I've seen onions put in a blender. I don't like it. I think the onion changes the whole flavor, changes the whole dynamic of Spanikopita, and I would not put raw onions, but I will put scallions because I think scallions add for the flavor, the crust. It really lends really well with it. And the good thing about it is after you've baked it in the oven for 35-45 minutes, you can't even taste the scallions. You taste just flavor beyond compare. Next is dill. Now you might not think dill really belongs in the Spanikopita, but you know, there's something about just doing spinach and feta that doesn't jive well for me. But I can tell you that, you know, taking the dill, taking the parsley, taking the spinach, taking the feta, and in that combination, and another thing is I don't cook my spinach ahead of time either. So this is all cut raw, mixed, assembled, and baked with 2 or 3 eggs, depending on how I look at the mixture. Believe it or not, after doing this for a while, you could cut spinach and know that it could be just a little bit more water in there than normal. And that's why I'll use the 3rd egg. If I think that I'm gonna have some liquid in there, I want the protein just to gobble everything up and sort of ferment. I don't want a sloppy mess. And olive oil. Olive oil is key to this. Some people use butter. I use the butter when I'm doing like baklava, but for this type of dish, I'm definitely just using like pure olive oil. And I know a lot of Mediterranean connoisseurs and chefs will always argue with me that the Mediterranean oil is a lot better than the Italian oil. But today I'm sticking with an Italian oil. But either way, we are going to be whipping up this Spanikopita, and you, my friends, are going to get a little taste of grease in your very own kitchen. All right, so let's get started. Right. So first thing, what we're going to do is we're going to zoom in close. I'm going to show you some ingredients. I'm going to do some chopping. going to chop some scallions, going to chop some parsley, and I'm going to chop some everything else and mold it together. And this is a very, very good technique that I'm going to show you that's really easy, a little messy, but I'm telling you that the end of the product is just incredible. All right, so you're going to take your Athens Phyllo Dough here, and remember, we're only using the brand Athens. And this is really a real simple process. You're just basically going to take, it comes in 2 packages of Phyllo Dough here. What we're going to do is just cut this off. Just be careful you don't cut the actual phyllo. And this stuff is really versatile. It's easy to use. But there is a little bit of handling that you have to do, and it's good to have a wet rag with you as well, because whatever you don't use, you don't want the phyllo to just sort of get crusty on you, you know, because see how it's folding out really nicely? And this has been thawed for 2 hours. So this is thawed at 2 hours, and this is what it looks like. And we're going to go over to our pan here, and the first thing we're going to do is add some olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. And then we're going to take a piece of this. You can take 2 pieces of the Phyllo Dough or 3. It doesn't really matter. That, you know, when you put your first layer down, it's got to kind of be several layers in there, just for the simple fact you're going to be cutting this bad boy out. And the real trick of this whole dish is to constantly put oil down, you know, when you're putting down the next, you know, the next part of this thing. So we're going to come over here, and we're going to roll this and just set it aside for a second. See how I'm rolling it like this? That way it will not get crusty, it will not get dry. We're just going to set it aside, and we're going to chop up some of the things that we have here. Now, you're going to need parsley. This is flat leaf parsley. Flat leaf parsley is going to go really good with this dish. It's a main ingredient for Spanikopita. You are going to mold it in with the spinach, the scallions, and of course our fresh dill, which is coming up next. But this parsley gives it such a great aroma. You can sort of smell the parsley just coming up at the nose, you know, after you're cutting this up. It really is nice. And then you're going to do the same thing to your dill. This is fresh dill, and only use fresh dill. Do not use any dry. No dry dill, no dry parsley, no dry scallions. Everything has to be fresh. And this is going to add so much flavor to this dish. You're going to love it. Now we're going to put that right in the bowl. And already you smell the aromas coming out. Bag of scallions here. And scallions are really important for this dish as well. And you're going to do the same thing. And you want to use the white and the green together. Don't just use the green. I know a lot of people like to stay away from the white, but this is all the flavors in here. You know, you go down to the very end of this, and you just put these aside. Next, you want to take fresh spinach. Again, only fresh. This is organic. Now, you don't have to use organic spinach, but I'm a big fan in using organic ingredients. But anyway, whatever spinach you decide to use, just make sure it's baby spinach and it's fresh. And some people, when they're making the Spanikopita, they like to rip the spinach. You know, they take it and they sort of just go like that. But me personally, I like a knife. I've even seen some people use scissors. It's not going to release that much water. If you're using a frozen spinach, you got to watch out because it's going to be so much water in there. As a matter of fact, I don't even recommend using anything frozen with this recipe. I'm going to take the spinach, put it down in there like that. And we're probably going to transfer this to a bigger bowl because I want to do one more bag of spinach. With a rough chop. There's really no way of being too neat with this. You're going to have to get a little messy. And just when you think you got it to the point where you're gonna, not pull out big pieces of spinach in your spanakopita. That's not what you want. You don't want it to be like a slice of pizza where you're pulling the cheese out away from the pizza. You want every little bite to just stay in your mouth, and the only way to do that is to make sure that everything is chopped up nicely. All right, now I mentioned that we're gonna change the bowl here, right? So we're gonna take the rest of the spinach. Then we're gonna get a bigger bowl, which is what I should have started with in the beginning. And we're going to put everything in there. Now the aroma that comes off this is really, really, really nice. I mean, you could smell this. It's really good. All right, we're going to mold that. Now the last part of this ingredient here is we're going to take a little bit of feta cheese. Now you don't need to add salt because the feta cheese has got enough salt in it. And I like to have my feta cheese crumbled, not just in bricks. We're actually going to put 3 eggs in there, so to hold this all together. And you can put a little bit of pepper in there and stuff like that. I'm going to actually put, this is a mixture of salt, garlic. There's a little bit of salt in there. I know I said don't add any more salt in here, but this is not going to kill it. But it's got a lot of other good stuff in there that I want. It's got the garlic. Now, maybe in a lot of Spanikopita, a lot of the Mediterraneans are not going to use garlic in their Spanikopita. Maybe they will, but being from I'm Italian, I got to put a little Italian spin on that, and that's what we're going to do today. So you can omit the garlic if you'd like. Next is you really got to mold this together, right? Really get those flavors. And you can smell everything just coming together nicely. Really, really nice. Now we're going to put this mixture in the bowl. I'm going to put a little bit down like this, and we're going to flatten it down. We got this down. Next, we're going to put another layer of this. And now we're going to take the rest of the phyllo dough. What I like to do is just put it over the top. I know a lot of people like to overlap it. I'm not really a big fan of that. I'm going to take some oil. Remember, the oil is important with this dish. You could use a brush. You could use your hand the old-fashioned way. We're going to do one more layer. No matter how you do it, you're still going to get a little messy with this dish, and that's what cooking's about. Put the last layer. I like to have 2 sheets. Tuck this in, push it down. The reason why I put another one on top is because we're actually going to be cutting this with a sharp knife before it goes in the oven. All right, so now what we're going to do is cut the Spanikopita up before we put it into the oven. The very important thing, because you're not going to be pressing down with a knife when this thing comes out hot. You'll just make a bloody mess. So what you're going to do is, with a very sharp knife, you're not going to cut all the way down, but you're just going to cut the top. And I always cut the half first so that we know we're even on each side, right? You don't want to start here and go like that, and then you ended up with a small piece. So let's go down this again, like that. You need a very sharp knife for this. I would not use any other knife if it's not sharp. And then this one right here. This is like one of these dishes that you'll do really well with a brand new knife. Okay, now we're going to turn it around and cut it right down the middle. Remember not to go all the way down, but you want to just, you know, kind of stay on the top. And you'll see what happens when this turns brown. It'll sort of flake, and then you could just go right underneath there with a knife and cut the rest of it. We're going to take this, put it in the oven, 375 degrees for about 35 minutes. Check it, and hopefully it's done. We'll let it cool and we'll eat. It's some pretty amazing looking Spanikopita made with Athens Phyllo Dough. This stuff is super, super amazing. It's the only one I use. Okay, now, as I mentioned before, you're definitely going to need to cut it again, right? So now we're going to go all the way down. Before, we really only went about halfway through it. And we're going to make sure that we get the bottom. This is real easy. You could never do this with Spanikopita if it came out uncut. You would be smashing the whole thing, and it just would be a mess. This is so much easier. And then what I like to do is after I cut, wow, it smells amazing. What I like to do is just, with the spatula, is just go on the side just to make sure that nothing is sticking. Because Phyllo Dough has a tendency to stick, and you don't want that to ruin what you're doing. So look, the first part is always a challenge to take out. But if I turn this here, see that? That's amazing right there. That is good stuff. And we're gonna put that down like that. And here you have it, our amazing Spanikopita with Athens Phyllo Dough. And really, we're ready to eat. We're going to take this baby and pair it up. So I hope you enjoy. So that's going to conclude this show of Spanikopita. I hope that you make this recipe, that you enjoy it with your family and friends, and I hope that you've learned something on today's show. And of course, check out my friends over at Athens. Their Phyllo Dough is what we worked with today. They also have the Athens Phyllo Dough shells, which you can put canopies in there and different kinds of cheeses, and we're going to do that on another show. So check them out. Thank you for watching this fun-filled episode of Taste This TV. I'm your host, Chef Joe Ciminera. Remember, there never was any rules in cooking, and there certainly isn't now. Taste this.